As a pastor, theologian, and faith-based community organizer, Jordan Jones explores the role of contemplation within the Black radical tradition, particularly as a practice for building and sustaining beloved fugitive communities. His work took shape during his formation at Union Theological Seminary, and it continues in his role as associate pastor at Metro Hope Church in East Harlem, New York. Welcome to Footnotes.
Get going a little bit, but
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the first episode of Footnotes. This is the segment of Black Modern Mystic where I interview up-and-coming scholars, people who have deeply impacted me with their either academic work, their ministry work, people that I feel like can speak to from a very analysis perspective some of the themes that are coming through in the episode. So episode 1 was called Love Your Flesh, and it dealt with something called sacred refusal, this idea that latent in Black people is a refusal that has caused us to come forward into life and to create beauty in the world. And so today I'm dealing with and speaking to and learning from a dear, dear friend, Jordan Jones, who I met in Atlanta during a trip for pastors and leaders thinking about how to develop more courageous conversations in congregations. And Jordan and I sat on the back of the bus. It felt like a portal was opened up, and in our conversations around sacred refusal and saying no stayed with me all the way to this moment right here where I finally get to have a conversation with you for the people to hear. And so I'm so grateful to have you. I've read your bio. People know who you are coming in. I just would love to know, friend, based on that episode and the people that you're learning from and thinking with, what are your thoughts and who are you learning from? Who are you thinking with right now?
beloved, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor, and it's just so funny. Even now, like we can't help but just like drop into that space,
So
you know.
true.
Um, and so, yeah, I appreciate the question. I appreciate the thoughtfulness. I am also just like completely humbled and honored to be kind of in the cloud of witnesses of the other guests. Was incredibly moved by the reflections about the clearing and then also about trees, and like the trees not they can't do any wrong, like they're like a truth teller.
Yeah.
So one of the people that I've been thinking a lot about, and it'll connect really right back into the conversation we've been having, is Howard Thurman.
Yes.
But really thinking about Thurman through the lens of his grandmother.
Yes.
And I'll share a quote in a second, but I think we're approaching King. I'm not sure when the episode will air, but we're a few days out from MLK Day, at a very fraught moment in this country's history. And, the kind of staid liturgies around King feel a little bit hollow.
That's right.
Uh, I've been going back to Thurman because Thurman was in many ways the architect for the nonviolent movement. He
That's right.
was the first Black Americans to meet King, along with Benjamin Elijah Mays and his wife Sue Bailey Thurman. And it was really Thurman who brought the teachings of Gandhi to King first. Um, and there's something about the way that Thurman articulates this inward outwardness, right?
Yes.
And when we think about the clearing, I'm like, how do you arrive at a place that tells you and everyone around you that you are not the thing that it says that you are outside,
That's
right?
right.
How can you be in a system of enslavement? How can you be in a system of oppression that says that you are everything but a child of God?
That's right.
And then be reminded and then be deeply grounded in a different truth, different identity. So do you mind if I just share this quote?
Yes, please. Yeah.
And I don't want to jump the gun here, but I just like have been thinking about this. And so Thurman is,
Teach us.
Thurman is talking about sitting at the feet of his grandmother, who was born into slavery, and she was illiterate, but she knew the scriptures deeply because of the ministers, the slave ministers, as how she said. And the quote comes from Jesus in the Disinherited, and it says, "The awareness of being a child of God tends to stabilize the ego and results in a new courage, fearlessness, and power. I have seen it happen again and again. The idea was first given to my grandmother by a certain slave minister who on occasion held secret religious meetings with his fellow slaves. How everything in me quivered with the pulsing tremor of raw energy when, in her recital, she would come to the triumphant climax of the minister. You are not inwards. You
Mhm.
you are not slaves.
Mhm.
You are God's children.
That's right.
A- And so even just reciting Thurman, reciting his grandmother, reciting this minister who had
Mhm.
to hold secret religious meetings,
That's right.
right? I mean, one of the ways that I remember engaging you in this topic is about what does it mean to be a fugitive, right? What does it mean to be
Mhm.
a spiritual fugitive? What does it
Yeah.
mean to carve out space in the midst of? And so, there's nothing more symbolic. I mean, that is a hush harbor, is what he's describing. And I also wonder if there's a double speak with this minister that he couldn't preach the same sermon on Sundays as he did on after church, right?
Mhm.
There was a different space, perhaps outside of the church. Again, these like secret religious meetings with his fellow slaves.
I love that. I
So
love
yeah,
that.
that's kind of
I
what I'm
keep
thinking.
thinking about that. Yeah, like obviously I was seeing that in Baby Suggs and started reading Baby Suggs as a womanist and um and thinking about what I've been thinking about, Jordan, is the authority piece. And it reminds me of like the Christ and these moments where Jesus would be walking around Galilee and people would say he speaks on his own authority. Like his authority is derived from some other place, from some other intelligence, and the fruit of this intelligence is showing up in the ways that people actualize around him. And that there was something about it just makes me think about these passages of like something greater than the temple is here, and the fact that a person can actually carve out space by being themselves fully. And all of the things that I think. I was in Boston a while back at the Howard Thurman Center. Have you ever been there?
At BU?
Yeah.
Woo! In the basement?
I went to the room with the moss. You been in the room with the meditation
No.
room?
No, no.
Okay, I was in Boston. I was at the Howard Thurman Center, and I had not um put the two and two together. King is coming up, and I've been thinking a lot about Bayard Rustin in my work. But when I was in Boston, I saw a real correlation between the ways that like Bayard Rustin moves and the ways that Howard Thurman moved, and they both had a kind of soft militancy,
Yes.
right? And we had this conversation with Walter Fluker and Emily Towns, and this is my little like personal tell your mom about it claim to fame, is that I stumped Emily Towns with this question because I said, I'm reading Howard Thurman as a militant. I think about the Black movement and how all of these people came to Thurman, from these different sort of uh reaches of the Black struggle. You had King, but you also had like I think it was Vincent Harding, and all these people would come to him and talk to him, and he would hold it. He would hold. It's got to be inward. It's got to be stillness from which we work. We have to, when King gets stabbed, and he's like, you've got to go and rest. Like there was something that was so much more militant about Howard Thurman because he could not be moved.
Yes.
And I see that same militancy in this nonviolent Christ, which is like it all has been coming sort of full circle for me around the hush harbor is the place that ratchets up our courage to be in the strange land and not become strange people, not become like our captors. Like
Yes.
how do you see that playing out with those folks?
Wow. I mean, that is so deep. And I just want to touch on that for a second because I've been thinking a lot about the role of dreams in the prophet in the lives of prophets. And something that it just dawned on me recently, which is so simple, but you have to sleep to dream. You
Come on,
have to
Jordan.
rest to be able to dream. And there's something about the posture
Mm,
of receiving, which is only enabled by a kind of settling down, or as Thurman would say, a centering down,
centering
um,
down.
for no other reason. For no other reason. I mean, Rustin
Mm,
and Thurman are drinking from the same well because they're drinking from a well of a um, one, a deeply Black-centered existence, and also studied under a kind of Quaker. There's a Quaker vocabulary. There's like a Quaker language and theology that's swirling in the waters there. And so
Mm-hmm.
George Fox and Rufus Jones were, um, very kind of key central figures, and they talk about the light. They talk a lot about
Mm.
light within all of us. And so whenever you hear about Thurman talking about the light in yourself and in the other, he's drawing on Quaker themes. And Rustin
Mm.
as well was, an ardent Quaker until his death. And so that's one connection there. Something else that you said that I wanted to pick up on, and maybe even flip the script,
Yeah, come on with it.
because reading Thurman as a militant, I love that idea. I'm just so enthralled by this idea of a kind of a tender militancy. I think as
Oh my
Dr.
gosh.
West calls.
E- Emily Towns, I got to stop you real quick. She was like, huh, I never thought about that. And then Walker Fluker leaned forward and was like, if you were my student, I'd tell you to go after that. So I
Yes.
just got to say, like, I think let's talk about it because I haven't talked to anybody else.
Well, and is there a convergence with people that we would read as militant, people that we would read like someone like a James Cone as a contemplative? And
Mm,
Cone was very critical of contemplation. He said it was navel gazing. But I'm like,
mhm.
brother, there's something deeply mystical about your identification with other Black people.
That's right.
To be Black like Christ, you have to enter into a sort of like a going down into oneself, right? Which I
Come
think
on,
is
Jordan.
only made possible by the mystics. And so, and it doesn't surprise me that Thurman would go in as a contemplative and come out as a militant, because he says,
Hmm.
how can I see the face of God if the face that I'm seeing is being mistreated, right? Like, how can I actually even know Christ if my back is not as far back against the wall? If you're going to look for Christ, go to the wall. Um,
Mm,
it wasn't like, it wasn't a political calculation. It was a spiritual, it was a
it
theological one.
was.
He says, where is Jesus? Jesus is with
Mm,
those whose backs are against the wall.
mm,
And so I think that there is this like uh, militancy and contemplative piece that actually go hand in hand, that once you go inward, you have to come outward. You
that's
have to
right.
come out.
And he talks about that with the sound of the genuine too, with like, if I listen to the sound of the genuine in me, then
Yes.
I will go down into myself, follow it all the way down and find it coming up in and out of you. And I feel, one of the things that is so exciting for me about Black Modern Mystic is like, you know, I, where I'm not working with a whole lot, but I have such a wealth of beautiful, articulate, fascinating people that I've come to know from listening to the sound of the genuine in my life. And I'm so excited to curate these conversations because I think there's something resonant that I think it's revolutionary for us to actualize one another, for us to be so like a tree,
Mm,
just
mm.
there, being, not overly concerned about being perceived, but if you look, it's awesome, right? I just think there's a new wave of Black militancy that comes from this sort of mysticism, but a Black like hush harbor mysticism, right? Like the truth telling, the fleshiness
Yes.
of it all, the fugitivity of it all. Um, how is this? I know that's how that's animating sort of my work. How are these thinkers animating your work right now and what you're doing? You just gave a speech, right?
Yes. So I was just speaking about James Cone and Thomas Merton, and I was putting them in conversation with each other because at different times of their life, they were occupying space a block away from each other. Merton was confirmed at Corpus Christi Church, and Cone was teaching at Union Theological Seminary. Kurt Merton preceded Cone, but Merton wrote extensively about the Black Power movement, unbeknownst to me. I mean, like really getting in there. Um, and we know, the legacy of Cone and as the father of Black liberation theology, and really kind of unequivocal about his stances around pairing Christ with Blackness. And again, that is just in line with the conversation that we're having. Is that I think that there was a contemplative, if they were to speak to each other, because they were both seeing Harlem from their perspective standpoints, and Harlem
Mm-hmm.
as animating place for them.
Hmm.
But they did come in conversation in writing because Cone found a letter that Merton wrote to James Baldwin.
What?
Yes. Yes. And so Merton has an extensive list of letters in a book published called The Seeds of Destruction. And he's writing to James Baldwin, and he says, "You are absolutely right. You get nothing wrong." He says, "You absolutely have it." Particularly in Baldwin's prognosis in Letter from a Region of My Mind, which was
Yeah.
published Fire Next Time.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, Merton's like, brother, like, you're
You
on
got it.
point, and Cohn reads Merton saying, like, very few white people get it, but Merton gets it because he understands that there's no other choice than to be able to see it in front of you. Baldwin says to be black and conscious is to be in a constant state of rage. And so Cohn is, he's commending Merton for that. But there's something that I wanted to pick up on, thinking about and reclaiming some of these black icons as contemplatives, and a conversation that we had was Harriet Tubman,
That's right. Come on.
and both and really all of these people that we're in conversation with, Merton, Baldwin, Cohn, Rustin, and now Tubman, they all knew what time it was.
They did.
They all knew what time it was, and it's time to get going. It's time to get going. And when I think about, and Saidiya Hartman talks about critical fabulation, and so we can't get into the mind of Tubman. There are many biographies. Some of them were propaganda. Some of them were made to raise money, and some of them are pieced together, kind of like
Right.
apophatic history of Tubman's life. But I got to imagine that she knew when to rest, and she knew when to create a safe psychological and spiritual space for people who were not ready yet.
That's
And
right.
because she knew that when they got ready, or rather when they got to Freedom Land, they would still have to be able to embody that sense before they get there.
That's right.
I mean, there were people that wanted to go back the whole time, and one of the histories by Tia Miles
Tia
called
Miles.
Night Flyer. Tremendous work, tremendous work. I mean,
Oh my gosh.
nothing prose, but just the way that she constructs these moments where Tubman
Yes.
finds a clearing, and she's amongst, you know, formerly enslaved. I mean, currently in the midst of being liberated, right? Like in media liberation slaves who are,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I'm ready to taste that freedom yet. And sometimes Tubman would say, would calm down, would say, hey, drink this tea, or here's some herbs, or let's rest. And sometimes she'd pull out that pistol. I was like, you're not going back.
Uh-uh.
You're not going back. And so there's something deeply militant and contemplative about that, right? About creating space, about tending to healing on the move, right? But it's in preparation for a destination that is both physical, but it's deeply spiritual, right? It's like, I'm
Yes,
preparing
indeed.
you for your own freedom. Um, in abolitionist work, you read, it says, in order to be free, you have to be free. In order to be freed, you have to be free. Um, and so I think
Come
that
on, Jordan.
work, that's the work. It's both political work, but it's deeply spiritual work, right? It's not just for freedom in a kind of ethno-national sense. God wants us to be free.
That's
God
right.
created us as free. And so I think to be able to experience your fullness, to love your flesh, right?
Mm-hmm.
Be free in order to be freed. Um,
Mm.
that's what I'm thinking about. That's what I'm thinking of.
You have to be free in order to be freed. And that's what I sensed. I was reading a book. I don't know if it was a Strange Freedom or it was either a compilation on Howard Thurman or someone that was writing a biography, but they were talking about how these different people would come and argue with him, and they would be like, try to pick him apart. He would not move. And then you look in hindsight and you're like, there was wisdom, like deep, deep wisdom in the fact that he would hold space for the anger, hold space for the rage. I mean, just let it rock. But he had this grounding that is so fascinating to me, because I just find that in the spaces that I'm in, um, I'm not always in love with the options, right? The options are either to fold or to like fight until you wear yourself out, and yelling at things that aren't listening, and like I'm like, there's got to be a way. And I have found that my morning practice has been, Jordan, they talk to me. I talk to the ancestors. I talk to the people I'm reading. I mean, I'm talking to Katie Cannon and Bayard Rustin and James Baldwin and reading their works and then taking their work into my meditation with me and conversing with them. Like, I think, what I'm hoping that comes out of this is not only people get, sort of access to more scholarship and more options. I know that that's a huge, actually, when I was in Boston, one of the people that I was there with was of the Caucasian persuasion and said, I went to seminary. I'm an elder in my church. I've never read Howard Thurman in my entire, and I'm just like hoping that what Black Modern Mystic can do is begin to offer people options in a more expansive way to navigate life in a death dealing world. I mean, I think that that's really all we can hope for is to live an abundant life in Babylon,
Yes. Yeah.
and these Black modern mystics, these Black mystics, um, they've taught me so much, and I'm wondering where you see, and I don't know if you see this, but I'm wondering if you see queerness anywhere. I mean, I've been kind of drawn to bringing in some other folks, but Audre Lorde and Octavia Butler in particular, because I see queer neurodivergence here as a part of this sort of expression of Black mysticism. Do you see any correlations there at all?
Ooh, I love that question. Um, I mean, one and queerness. I mean, there's so many different like ways to understand queerness, and I
Right.
also want to honor um, the like root of queerness as being a kind of a muddying of binaries, and
That's right.
also to hold queer identities, right? Because I think that I don't want to collapse those. I don't want to collapse those. I don't want to necessarily claim theologians who don't identify as queer. But I
Mm-hmm.
also do want to say that there is a kind of um, like queering that happens when you allow, again, when you allow that kind of inward process to
Sure.
happen, right? It's to say that actually I'm not the thing that you say I am,
That's right.
right? And in fact, I am so not the thing that you say I am that is part of my identity as a
That's
queer,
right.
right? It's like I am, I am, I
I am.
right, and I mean, if we want to go way back with it, I mean, isn't the Yahweh, isn't that like there's a kind of a queerness in the fact that it's a sound. It's the sound of vocal cords rubbing up against themselves, right? It's not in a, a lexical container.
Mm-hmm.
It's and so I think that there is something about that, about starting from your experience, right? Starting your experience as opposed to starting with the label.
Mm-hmm.
And queer as as becoming a politicized label. But I think that at its kind of initial phases, it's like you can't really draw a neat line around it, right?
You
Sometimes I am
can't.
what I am, which it feels dangerous to even say, but I also feel like there's an invitation in
It's
that.
right.
Mhm.
There's a definite invitation, and I feel like I am just like the tree am, like really thinking about a tree. And I wonder, both Starlet and Leah talked about the trees. And the trees are all through this season, even though I didn't mean for that to happen, but trees don't lie. Trees have seen it all. There is something, trees have their own conversation networks. Um, they don't want for anything. They're good being. And I think there is something so ineffable about that I'm having such a beautiful time even trying to figure it out because I'll never be able to capture it. And I think that that's queerness, right? It's the thing you can't capture. It's the thing that is elusive. It's the thing that like that is relatively insignificant to the status quo, right? Um and I don't know, I'm starting to find a lot of beauty. I'm becoming more and more happily insignificant, if that
Hmm.
makes sense.
Yes.
And I have a goal in my life to not want anything, just like the trees. And I feel like there's a way in which the clearing and these hush harbors are a route to that. I'm still not sure how. like I'm still not sure how, and I'm wondering, is it the fugitivity and the precarity of it all? But I think there is something to the trees and queerness and being okay with being insignificant,
Yeah.
because I actually don't want to be significant to the system. I don't want it to recognize me.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Wow. It's just a powerful image. I mean, in a world that like trades on significance and trades on influence, you know, even that desire is powerful and subversive in its own way. I was on a retreat, and I was looking at a mountain, and I think
Mm.
it same holds true for trees. I think maybe even it's even more poignant. And I was thinking about, you know, what my takeaways were going to be from this retreat, because I had gone away 10 days, and I was like, I better have
Hmm.
something to support.
You gotta come back with a
I
program.
was bored, you know, I'm
This is
bored. No,
America.
I'm bored. I was watching this tree and this mountain, and it came to me. I said, 1,000 years ago, this mountain could have been flat. It could have been underwater. It could have been the highest mountain in that hemisphere. And in 1,000 years, it may be underwater or maybe clear cut, God forbid, or it could be somehow the highest mountain. But in this moment, I'm beholding it in its glory. Like the
That's
way
right.
that God sees it is exactly how it is. And there's something about trees who operate on a shorter timeline than mountains do.
Mm,
And they're unconcerned with where they're going to be. You know, God beholds them exactly as they are, as
mm,
seeds, as saplings, as shoots, as full trees, and also in the rubble, in the rubble.
mm,
Something about that kind of quiet beholding that I'm drawn to, is to allow
mm,
myself to be beheld at every given moment. Um, yeah, I'm something about, you know, trees speak that wisdom. Every time you see a tree, it's in a moment of becoming, and it also is exactly what it is. And it has always been exactly what it is, but and God has seen it in that moment. Um, you know, how do we behold each other as we are, and as we are becoming who we are going to be?
mm, mm. I mean, you're the good Rev. So I'm gonna ask you to hit us with a word here, but I think what you're challenging me to see and ask is what does it mean, the militancy of allowing ourselves to be beheld? And that's hard to do. I think allowing yourself to truly be beheld is very queer. It's very I am that I am. It's the peculiarity of a bush that's burning, and it makes you double back. And I think that the only way to do that, what I see, Minty and, Rustin and Howard Thurman and even Dr. King in some ways, what I see them doing is saying, I'm going to allow myself to just be. And then to allow this spirit, this wind, this vitality to move through me in such a way that it creates freedom for everybody that I come in contact with. And it's just, there's a commitment to that.
I mean, thinking about kind of queerness and thinking about Harriet Tubman, I mean, she was born Araminta,
Yes.
and that was a given name, and then she changed her name to Harriet. And
Come
how
on.
did she know when to change it to Har I mean, how did she know when? Which number trip was it?
Come on.
And then she becomes Moses,
Hmm.
and then she becomes this patron saint of
Hmm.
liberation. I mean, that is, I mean, in service of, right? There was a true waiting, uh, a tarrying, if you will, in Araminta. There's a tarrying
Hmm.
in each version of herself
Hmm.
that gives us so much, and I think that is what kind of sacrificial love is to give of yourself where you are, where you
That's
are.
right. Be here now.
Exactly. We're here now. You and me are here now, but also it's an invitation for other people to hold you in that, right? And the challenge of being beheld is that you first have to be held by your creator. You have you have to be, like when we began the conversation talking about Thurman's grandmother, that's understanding that relational, I am God's child. That's the first beholding. And then in concentric circles, you begin to invite your people to behold you, right? Is it a parent figure? Is it a lover? Is it a child? And then you start to see all these rings, if not in the moment of beholding, the possibility of beholding. And that's what we do this for. That is what the militancy is. That's what the militancy is.
Shay, friend. I think that you are, well, first, and it's a simple word, but I hope you feel the weight of it. You are safe. And I believe you're going to free the people. And I don't even know how or why. I'm super, super grateful to have come into contact with you, to have held conversation with you. I know this is the beginning of just more and more conversation. And I just cannot wait to see your fragrance in the world. Is there anything that you want to say to the audience and the people listening, where they can find you, how they can keep up with what you're doing in the world?
That's a great question. I'm not very good at promotion at this moment in my life. I write infrequently for Sojourners magazine, and I'm on Instagram at Mr. T Jones. But I'm just out in the streets. My email is jtaylor.jones92@gmail.com. Just email me. Just email me. I'm still trying to behold others, just like I'm this beautiful invitation to behold you and to be held by you. Thank you for this platform. Yeah, it is a gift. It is a gift.
You're a gift, friend. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for coming to this first episode of Footnotes. What we'll do is gather people that I admire, people that I'm learning from, who have been my teachers in this process of my own freedom to be like a tree, if you will, and to find the militancy of a kind of beautiful insignificance. And I'm just grateful to you. I'm very grateful to you. Thanks, everybody, for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to Black Modern Mystic, as made by Dr. Mommy. Oh, and don't forget to support the show. Bye.